Around 12 to 13 years of age for males, you see this huge development in the executive function system. And then around 16 to 17 years of age, there's another huge burst of development. And around 21 years of age, there's another huge burst of development. And what these bursts do is that they allow the person to problem solve at a much higher level.
It used to be thought that adolescents could not assess risk as well as adults. That's not true. They can assess risk as equally as adults can. What's different is the reward they get from that potential behavior is so strong that it outweighs the risk.
All of those Catholic nuns that made us write things 100 times, they were ahead of their time, it turns out, because repetition is what builds the executive function system. The more you do something, the more it wires things together. All the different routines in terms of family dinners, in terms of study time, specific start times and stop times, having a prominent calendar that's out there for everybody to see with all the different family appointments in there. These are the types of routines that help a person build an internal sense of organization and planning. There is clear research that shows that the usage of digital formulas of time movement have led to pathways in the brain to become underdeveloped because time passage is very much tied into the visual system. And when you do away with that visual movement of time, what ends up happening is kids no longer understand what the difference is between 5 minutes and 10 minutes and 20 minutes. We've got to push that back. So if each of you could go out and get an analog clock and put it in a prominent way, we can start teaching these, getting the brain to be back on track.
We learn to regulate by being regulated. We don't come equipped with this braking system. The rules that were once without, that were imposed on us by our parents or our school, gradually in time become internalized. That's the hope. So that discipline is really about helping them become self-disciplined.
The CDC definition of bullying is any unwanted aggressive behaviors by any youth or group of youths that involves an observed or perceived power imbalance and is repeated multiple times or is highly likely to be repeated. Over half of teens surveyed have reported receiving hurtful messages online, and more than 4 out of 10 report it happening more than once. Only 1 in 10 teens will tell a trusted adult or a parent that they've been bullied online, which is pretty striking given how many teens are saying that they've received hurtful messages of some kind. Even somebody who has been functioning well socially, but then finds themselves in a situation where there's a clash among social groups, or there are some strivings for some kind of social status, where there's more relational aggression happening between peers. Some of that might get played out online more so than in person. Parents really want to be communicating with their kids just on a consistent basis about a lot of different matters. If you're sort of laying that foundation that you are available to talk about difficult matters, not just what's going well, but also what are they struggling with. Laying that foundation that you are available when there's a problem and they need some help, and that you're not going to react excessively to whatever they bring to you is going to help a child or a teen to feel more secure in letting a parent know if something like cyberbullying is happening to them or if it's happening to somebody else and they're not sure what to do. A lot of times kids, they again are thinking a lot about just the immediate moment without a lot of consideration for the fact that a lot of what we're putting online is there forever. And kids who are in middle school are not necessarily thinking about what I'm putting online that could be viewed by somebody years from now when I'm applying to a school or applying for a job and things like that. If a child comes to you and says that they've been the victim of cyberbullying, it's really very important to get as much information from them as you can about what happened. But what happened not just in the instance of the actual cyberbullying, but also what were the events that led up to this, to really get a clear picture of what's going on. Because the more information that you have, the better informed you're going to be in determining what to do about it.
perspective taking. This is huge for a lot of our kids. Just being able to take perspective and understand that, you know what, you really enjoy space, me, not so much. I'm not a big outer space person. And to helping them understand that just because that's something that you're passionate about does not mean that everyone is going to want to spend the hour talking about outer space.
We've all kind of run across the face cards, okay, emotional regulation, what is this person feeling, which again is a really important skill for us to notice those clues about what people's faces are telling us. And one of the things that we'll do in group is kind of take it beyond that. We want to talk about what that context is. Well, what's the story behind it? What was going on? What was happening around it? That big picture, thinking in context to really get all of that social information.
Or in the grocery store, when you're pushing the cart and someone's coming along, you typically move out of the way because you're thinking about sharing that space and you want them to have positive and comfortable thoughts about you. So it's really walking them through that. And like I said before, it's really the thinking before doing. So helping them to really increase their awareness into the thoughts and feelings that other people are having whenever we're sharing space with anyone. And then like even on this slide, you have compromising for conflict resolution. But again, it depends on the context. If you're at someone's birthday party, are you going to compromise with the birthday boy on what game they wish to play? Probably not. So trying to really help them understand all of this and that it's always changing.
So even if we place the emphasis on a saying like, why don't I take you to dinner? We have to be like, do they mean that we're going to take somebody else, so they're going to take me now? Or why don't I take you to dinner? Oh, instead of the guy that you were supposed to go to dinner with. So you can see like the words are all the same, but they all have very different meanings. And we have the social intuitive thinking to pick up on that and be like, oh, that's what that person was meaning when they said that. And for a lot of our kids, that's the piece that's difficult for them to navigate, those hidden messages amongst things.
But a lot of these kids, they can be very rigid and stuck in their own habits and struggle to be flexible. And this is woven throughout like each and every group. As you saw in the sample plan, we have game time, and this is typically an opportunity for them to decide on a game together. And it's always interesting because one person wants to play Who Knew, the other one wants to play Uno Attack, and they have to come to a decision together. So this is built in throughout group.
And in terms of reporting and summarizing group stuff, this is very helpful for parents and other clinicians working with the students that we work with. Every third session there's a summary that goes out, summarizing all the work that we did. Here's the social skills we worked on, here's how we did it, and then individual reflections in each member of the group. So that communication is happening as well with students that are enrolled in the program.
Differentiated instruction is pretty much what it sounds like, which means that taking instruction that you need to get across to people and realizing that some people are going to learn by me talking to them, some people are going to learn by giving them handouts, some people are going to learn by film clips, some people are going to learn by getting up and doing things. Most people are going to learn by a combination of these different things.
Now, when you guys kind of gave us a little bit of information about where your sticking points are, sticking points that I would call opportunities for development or for progress, so many of these points really mirrored the behaviors that we see in adults with ADHD here. So stuff that really leads to a faulty sense of time awareness, time management, all the difficulties that we see with executive functioning skills.
Football requires incredible conditioning, as you guys know much better than I do. A lot of that conditioning, a lot of that development of core muscle strength is exactly what helps to regulate and turn on the brain. If you look at these brain structures, it's not a disorder at all. It's just a genetic evolutionary difference. These are the hunters that succeeded very well. But it's also why, again, I say, if you can become effective in learning to work with these players, these are the players you want on your team. Maybe not 55 of them, but you want some of these players on your team because these are the guys who are going to be able to detect what the other team is doing that some of the other players might miss. These are the players who are going to be able to adapt to changing qualities because they really love that high energy environment. You throw them into MetLife Stadium with 60,000 people screaming and all this sort of stuff, and all of a sudden their brains become alive and they're able to perform much better. These guys do incredibly well when they embrace the idea that ADHD is learning how to rearrange their lifestyle. And so education about diagnosis and treatment is critical. It's important that they learn what it is, why it is, how they're going to function better. People don't multitask very well. And then when they're multitasking, they miss bits of information, and so what is important doesn't always get transferred from the short-term segments of the memory system into the long-term segments of the memory system. So then when they come back the next day, they don't remember it. And that's where you get frustrated as a coach. We just went over this. Why are we wasting more time? All of your teaching needs to be directed in the position of how am I helping this person focus in on it, become metacognitive of it, become aware of it, take it from short-term memory, transfer it into long-term memory. And these are some different things that can be really helpful.